Hi, Aigul. Welcome to the Real Talk podcast. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Valerie, for having me. So excited.
Now, you've done some impressive job. You are very unique because you are certified breath work practitioner. And
Right.
tell me a story how you became a breathwork practitioner. Like, I want the listeners to know what it is that you do and how we can give them some exercise strategy that they can apply in their life that can help them.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Yes, I mean, my story is quite interesting, I would say, because I used to work more, in human rights, environment, like sustainability. And it was, of course, always a part of it, right? But like probably personal wellness wasn't as important for me as environmental wellness, which we tend sometimes, right, like to go into and forget about taking care about ourselves. But actually, I'm also an endurance athlete. I'm a trail runner. So it was a few years ago when I was running an overnight race with a friend of mine. It's called Moon Trekker here in Hong Kong. And I remember I was in a perfect physical shape, but not in a good mental shape at all. So I essentially wanted to quit the race too soon. And then I remember that she's been trying to motivate me in many ways. And the reason for that was also that I was going through some difficulties in life, my personal life, my professional life. They were all kind of falling apart, something that happens to all of us at certain point, right, of life, but I didn't know how to manage that. And basically, I remember I started breathing in a certain way that she told me to. And then I said, okay, I have nothing to lose, right? And then checkpoint after checkpoint, we did 30 kilometers. It was quite hilly as well. We finished right before the sunrise. And we discovered that we actually ended up being female champions. And I was like, really, like from, almost quitting in just a few hours to winning the race. And that's because of breathwork. So that was, I think, a big turning point for me when I realized that, you can achieve what you want to achieve, also using your breath as your superpower. So it became my tagline: "Make your breath your superpower."
Right.
And of course, not in the meaning of smashing it, like no pain, no gain, because that's that's not something that works. But about taking care of yourself, right? And so yeah, so since then I've been working a lot. Like for me, my audience, I define it as high achievers. So by high achievers, I mean anyone in life who works towards their goals, who wants to live better, healthier, happier. And my approach, so it's performance breath work for sure, and then it's also rebirthing method. Yeah,
I
that was
love
a bit.
I love that you just said that and this is true because a lot of people and me and you we had a discussion about this before. We're so like we really into our taking care of our body, our health, and we're like, okay, like mental health and self-care and thinking about our mind, it's not something that we really focus on. We figure, I mean, obviously doing exercise, dieting, doing meditation and all of that is good for you, but mental health is not something that people, especially breath work that goes with mental health, a lot of people don't know. And that's what intrigued me about you, and I want you to bring you over here to tell the listeners how important it is, the breath work that you breathing can actually reduce the stress, anxiety, give you the energy and the boost and to do things that you want. And they said high achievers because this is how important it is to breathe properly. Now, this has not been taught in school. Nobody talks about this. We just like, yeah, we take it almost for granted. Every day we breathe, and when we exercise, we're like, okay, we're breathing a little faster, but that's about it. But I love that the fact that you actually explaining like, no, there's a way you can control your breathing that can actually be beneficial for you. So I'm going to go to the next question and I'm going to ask you, how can a breathwork practice help anyone to reduce kind of stress and anxiety? And the reason I'm asking you this because majority, I would say 80% of entrepreneurs and high achievers are really suffering from stress and anxiety, either overworking or personal, family problems, or simply just working on their business. There's a lot of stress, anxiety, fear, uncertainty that can affect their breath. how that can help, breath work can help them.
Oh, absolutely. It has an absolute direct connection. And I would say, especially for entrepreneurs, what I see all the time is because, we have this certain sense of guilt, right? So if we, like take time to take care about like for ourselves, we feel guilty that this is the time we could be working on something, like we're wasting our time. And no, 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 not at all, because this is our resource, our internal resource that we have, and it's much stronger than anything, like anything external, I would say.
Mm.
And I think also like a lot has to do with how, like, with our upbringing, right? Because most of us have been raised by parents who, like, how would they know, right? What did they know? Like they had it even harder. But of course, when we speak about breath work and breathing, like respiration, right? The word respiration, spirit, it means pretty much spirit in almost any language in the world. So this is how we just reconnect to our to our inner strength, right? To our source of life that we all have. We all breathe. If we stop breathing, there's basically no way for us to carry on. So the way conscious, so when we talk about conscious breathing, right? Because we can breathe automatically. That's something that we never notice, and that's why we don't take care about this part of life. We breathe, and we just take it for granted, as you said. But when we start breathing more consciously, observing the way we, if we breathe fast or slow, if we use our chest or our belly, our nose or our mouth, so many parameters, right? This is how we start slowing down. And as we slow down, we turn up the parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest, as the opposite to flight or fight.
Mm.
This is when we get, the access to more resources, to more energy. Our heart rate goes down, our cholesterol levels go down, and our immune system goes up. So just having this already, right? Because also our body is designed in a way that we spend 80% in the parasympathetic state, which is not common for us living like fast-paced life, or like being. Because also I'm sure like a lot of entrepreneurs, like also among your audience, they're also juggling something else, being parents, being working elsewhere. So of course it's yeah, just practicing, practicing conscious breath work will already put you in a better state, in a better mental shape than if you don't do that.
You're so right, because stress and anxiety is well, anxiety and depression is not a disease. It's not something the doctor tells you that, oh, you're diagnosed with this. And I want the listeners to understand that they give you a pill, and the pill is kind of like numbs your feeling for that moment. Your body, it's actually body relaxation, right? Because the muscles, everything relaxes,
Right.
not as high potential as your blood pressure goes up, so it kind of calms you down. But it's a temporary fix, people, and then your body gets immune
Absolutely.
to it. Next thing you know, you're taking all these pills, and after a while pills are not working, and you got to increase the dosage. So that's why it's really, really important to, for the listeners to understand, anxiety, stress, and depression is all is really based on your breath work, based on your breathing, based on how your body can release those muscles and make it relax in order for you to breathe and lower that blood pressure. So a little story that I wanted to tell you, and the reason it's so important for the listeners to understand. One of my friends started nose bleeding. She started, her nose was bleeding, and the doctor
Mm-hmm.
really said that to her, that maybe it's just like just a cold, or but she never had it before. So it was to the point that she believed she had to go to the ER, she had to go to the hospital. And it was caused because of her high blood pressure. And the high blood pressure was caused by the stress that escalated it over a period of time of her overworking. So she found out that later, and surprisingly, the doctor told her that instead of me giving you high blood pressure pills or anything like that, try to manage your breathing.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Amazing.
try to
Amazing.
manage your breathing. And as she was telling me the story, I was thinking about you and how much benefit you can get from this breathing properly, the way you said it, because a lot of us don't know and we never were taught. So That's amazing how you can do that. So, how often do you recommend for people to practice their breathing and learn it properly? Not just, because I know
Mhm.
for me, before meeting you, I know I met you and I talked to you before that. When I would go to the treadmill, I would be like, okay, I'm like, running. Or when I do meditation, okay, my breath is calm. But that's all as much as I knew. But when I spoke to you and we talked about it, I'm like, oh my God, like you said, are you breathing for your abdominal? Are you breathing from your chest? Are you breathing from your mouth or from your nose? Each one of them has effect on your body. So to the listeners, if they would ask you like, how often should we practice it? Just to get to the hang of it and learn how to do it
Mhm.
and then use it when the time is required.
Sure. I mean, like if I have to say it, like uh, practice it daily, right? Because it's just like I think with meditation, there is this phrase. I forgot the author, but it's not about incorporating meditation into your life, but about incorporating life into your meditation. So I really like this
Right.
approach because of course, I mean, like when we think about like our lifestyles as well, and when you what you mentioned about your friend, we don't live in the caves, right? We don't, most of us, we don't have the luxury of just sitting on top of the hill, observing. Just again, like we can always choose, but well, that's not feasible, right? We have to adapt it to the lifestyle, or to where we live and how we live. But for the beginners, I would say just start with the basic practices, and that's what I also like to say when people ask me, so what do you recommend for beginners or for more advanced levels? I don't think there is any like beginner advanced, because that again puts you into this stressful state of that you need to advance in something, when in fact, the only thing you need to do is to practice consistently what you learned at your first class, or what you found out to be working for you. It could be one technique, it could be a set of techniques. Obviously I would say also, like when you mentioned about the workout, this is essentially a workout as well, because we work on our breathing muscles and our primary breathing muscle, which is our diaphragm. And as city dwellers, what happens to us is that over time, as we get older, and by older I mean older than 5 years old, uh, our breathing goes up, right? So we become vertical breathers. That means using our chest, our shoulders, our neck even. And that's because we have sedentary lifestyles, right? Like spending these long hours in front of the laptop, or even like sitting on the phone. We just, our breathing moves up, when in fact, if we start observing and just, like sitting by yourself for 5 minutes and using your, well, starting with the belly and then moving up to the diaphragm, that already will bring you much further, like when I say further, it's not about achieving something, but in feeling better, in building up, that you will find out that suddenly, it becomes something normal for you, not thinking, oh, which exercise do I need now? It becomes it becomes your natural state, because that's how we are meant to breathe. If you look at the toddlers, right, or animals like cats or dogs, any mammals, you will see that. So that's how we should be breathing, like engaging our entire rib cage, right? So that it's a 360 degree breath. And that becomes, that's like our entire body will help us to get back to it.
That's interesting what you just said. You said that abdominal. Now, I did that, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
unusual for people to breathe from their abdominal. So when we're a baby, we like I've seen babies sleeping like they sleep, and when you can see their tummy goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And then even animals, and then for those of you who have pet, watch your pet sleeping, and their abdominal goes up and
Right.
down. So why is so hard? Like as we grow up, why do we breathe from
Mm-hmm.
here and not from abdominal?
I guess, well, of course, one part is, well, society, right? Like society rules. We start going to school. We sit up straight, so we stop playing, right? Because we don't move that much. Like, and mostly like the school system, the education system in most places of the world is still a bit somewhat old and backwards in terms of like letting children play and experiment instead of just sitting, and because they sit quite a lot. And then another part which I noticed, like especially with women, and I mean it happened to me as well, is like all these stereotypes about how a woman's body should look like. And that means a lot of pressure, like having like a flat belly, and if it's not flat, we kind of brace ourselves, like even like, I mean, if you notice when you pass by the mirror, like what happens automatically, we try like to squeeze, so we forget to breathe. Like that's what happens, because we want to look like we have the flat belly all the time, but that doesn't mean it's healthy, right? And of course I don't say that you should stop caring, like that you should stop caring, but it's just not healthy. Like the six pack is often not healthy, because what happens is that when we train a certain group of muscles, that we suppress others. So of course when we work on our abdominal muscles for breathing, we also build up a strong core. But without this, like pressure of having a flat tummy, like looking great. It's not about looking great, it's about feeling great, feeling great and feeling healthy. So looking from this perspective, and I think this is probably the main reason. So our lifestyle, and also the expectations of the society of how our bodies should look like.
Oh, that's a whole nother subject that I'm going to talk to you about. But
Exactly.
no, it's so true, so true. Abdominal, and well, especially if you're going through menopause, and as you like you said, as you're getting older. Now, older mean can 20 years old are like, okay, you're good and everything. If your stomach is like flat, that's good. If not, it's okay too. It's better than getting to this age of that, when you start getting your menopause and you start getting, that the your digestive system goes down, and you just, whatever, no matter how much of a strict diet you are, you still gain weight, and you have to be very careful. And I think for those people that are going through menopause, I highly recommend they should practice that, because like you said, your abdominal is like really important to be relaxed and start breathing from that. Now, I noticed that there's different type of breathing that you teach, right? There's a couple of different.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how many is there that you teach, and then I want you to like demonstrate some of them so they can see.
Yes, of course, there are many methods. There are lots of teachers. Like also, if you look at the ancient practices, starting from pranayama, qigong, tai chi. Then what you mentioned, it was very interesting. But I'm Russian, right? And in Russia, we actually also have certain schools and methods like Buteyko method. I didn't know that astronauts also used it for their training. And this is something that I didn't know as someone growing up and learning, just because we were never told that. But like the methodology, so the method, the school that I'm trained by, so it's a rebirthing method. Okay. So the rebirthing method is, yes, the main purpose here is accessing your emotional traumas, childhood traumas, and subconscious through circular breathing. So it's a connected breathing when we don't have pauses in between. It's quite of an intense process. It's not something that I teach on a daily basis, because I see it more like as a cleanup, right? A cleanup of your mental, emotional, physical body, like also your spiritual body. So it's something that you don't do on a daily basis, but from time to time, maybe twice a year, maybe you do it as a series. And then another method that I teach more on a daily basis, it's called the breathing class method. The author is Dr. Belisa Vranic, and she's my teacher. She's based in New York, and she's a clinical psychologist working a lot with the firefighter department, with law enforcement, and with the pro athletes. So this method is focused a lot on the biomechanics of breathing. So the biomechanics, like how we engage our muscles, right? Because we can, of course, and that's what happened to me also in my performance as a runner. I was like, okay, there are many techniques, but how do I know exactly if I breathe properly or not? If I breathe optimally, if things are going right. And that's a perfect, I think it's a perfect method for all the nerds who need numbers, you know. So there are lots of numbers, even the breathing IQ. So it's something that she created. And this is, so this is where we also move. So there is a lot of movement involved. Plus an active meditation. So you still meditate. And I remember for me as a person who is, you know, always more active, it was always hard to just sit down, to be still and to meditate. But essentially breathwork is also, so there are techniques that also help you to, you know, get into that state faster. I sometimes I also, like, you know, compare it, for example, when you are like in the cold. So in Russia we have it like this, at least in my family, this tradition: when it's cold, you are in the sauna and it's very hot, and then you get out and jump into the snow and it's very cold, so you enjoy it more just because you prepared your body. So I see breath work as also, like, you know, the state when you get prepared, and then when you jump into the meditation, you experience you experience the benefits faster. Faster because, well, that's another probably, like, this high achiever syndrome. We want things faster, you know, quicker. But, well, I mean, if that's the way, that's also perfect, because then over time you build up. But that's a great way as well. So so I like what I wanted to say, that I like to include a lot of movement as well, because what happens, and again, to your previous question of why we forget to like about why abdominal breathing feels harder, is because we also don't pay attention to this muscle, because it's a muscle, but because we don't see it, there are no nerve ends. So we don't know that things are wrong before, you know, like the nose bleeding, right? Like, for example, that was an extreme case. Or we feel that we are short on breath, or something else happens. But quite often we get misdiagnosed, because it's not as obvious as, for example, breaking your legs, or like, which of course I don't wish to anyone, but it's not as obvious. Right. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay attention, and that we shouldn't take care of this muscle that is actually quite big. It's about 10 pounds, and it has the size of a frisbee. It's not a small one. It's it's big, and it needs indeed, and it needs attention. So when we move, when we include movement, and this is why yoga, for example, is also, like, why a lot of yogis are using it in their you know, that breath is like, it's always breath centered. Or martial artists, they use breath a lot, because without, you know, like, because it's kind of like also like a project management. If you don't, you know, plan your breath, you don't have a good punch. Or, you know, like, when someone is punching you, you know, you need to also, like, play around, and to be able to, you know, address it better. Because sometimes, the punch is coming, you can't avoid it, but the way you react, you can make it, you know, like, less bumpy, right? Like, and to react faster. So that's what, so it's a lot of, like, I really like, I mean, I always look into, you know, more teachers and more schools. I really like to attend classes and workshops taught by other professionals, because, you know, we know just as much as we know, but
there's always more.
There is always more, and it's so enriching, and it's so beautiful as well.
And also think about, like, when we I know I don't know about you, but I have children. So when you're pregnant and you give birth, the one thing that the doctor focus on is the breath. Like, you know, when you breathe, they keep asking you to breathe and breathe. So when you breathe, it's easier to give birth versus if you holding on. And a lot of people are like holding on to the breath. It makes it so much hard for the birth. And I know that I give natural birth to my girls, so I know it's very important. So now we're going to come to the best part of this, that you going to guide us through your favorite to go exercise that people can use when they need it.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite techniques is called tactical breathing. And I actually learned it from my teacher, Dr. Belisa. And it's widely endorsed by firefighters. I think that it was a month ago that it officially became, like, part of the glossary for the firefighters department in New York. So it's called tactical breathing. And the beauty of this exercise is that you can be absolutely discreet as you do it. You can do it as I call it a commute exercise as well. I mean, I know that many of us are now working from home, so there is not so much commute, but it will come back at certain, well, hopefully soon. So what we do here, we go either fully nasal, and again, nasal breathing is something that, you know, many, like most of the, you know, like teachers would recommend, just because we were designed in this way. But if you feel like exhaling through the pursed lips, that would be also good. So the sequence is very simple. So we will be inhaling for 4, holding our breath for 4, then exhaling for 6, and holding for 2, right? So it's 4, 4, 6, 2. I will be counting so that you don't have to. You can close your eyes as well and place one hand on your chest and another one on your belly. And I would say, just even for now, if you close your eyes, just focus on your breathing before we start. And start observing if you breathe fast or slow, if you're using your nose or your mouth, if your breath is deep or shallow. And observe which hand is moving more, the one on your chest or your abdomen. And slowly move your attention to your abdomen and try to move. So try to expand as you inhale and narrow as you exhale. And we're gonna start in 3, 2, and 1. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2. And with your eyes still closed, go back to your normal breathing. And observe if there is any sensation in your body, or any thoughts or emotions arising. And if they're coming, just let them be and breathe through them. And if there is nothing there, it's great as well. And this is also where you can invite emotions that you want to have in your system. It could be something as simple as gratitude. And slowly open your eyes. And with a sigh of relief, come back to your normal state. So we did, of course, a very short version. I would recommend to do it for at least 2-3 minutes, and then you can go on and on. There is no minimum or maximum. And what happened here is that, as you probably noticed, our exhale was slightly longer than our inhale. And there is a purpose to that. So when our exhale is longer, we automatically get into the parasympathetic state. right? So whenever you feel like you want to calm down or you need some clarity, a focus, right? Whatever you're doing, when you exhale longer, that's probably the easiest and the fastest way. Because in this way, we also let things go, right? So it's like a yin and yang. So when we inhale, so that's our yang state. We are into, taking, receiving, um, having more masculine energy. But when we exhale, and that's quite often is, like harder for most of us, because we let go. We also, kind of give, like, or give away. And just, so that puts us into this yin state.
I was
So I
just
had.
gonna I was just gonna say, so for me, inhaling, like you said, you're doing the 4-2, hold 6, then 2. When you exhale, when you hold, that was the hardest one. And you wouldn't think of that.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
the inhale I was good with. The exhale, I'm exhaling, but I'm like ready to back inhale again. And that one number that you're saying, it can be very difficult. That's number one observation that I got. And I tell you, I teach meditation. I practice meditation all the time. So the other thing, that how much your awareness just come to you. Like, people don't realize that once you do this, it's just like you are literally within yourself. You're just literally not paying attention to anything else, and all your awareness comes to your body.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the interesting thing is, right, like, if you, and that's why there is a count, because as soon as you stop counting and, like, or thinking about something else, you can't do this exercise, right? Because, then you are caught up by something else. So you really, like, you have to, switch off. And, like, if you want to do this exercise, you have to switch off. And that's why it's so endorsed by the firefighters, because, like, they pretty much, fight the fires. There is no other way. And they can't do it from the, from the place of fear or panic, because otherwise, like, you make mistakes. So this is essentially, what helps you exactly to face, like, also to face, yourself, which is probably the hardest thing for all of us, right? Like, to face, okay, what's going on there. And sometimes what we discover might not be so pretty, but, well, that doesn't mean that we need to, run away from it. No. It's just, okay, it's there, we acknowledge it, and then we move on, right? We decide, because it's our system, it's our emotions, our thoughts, and it's only up to us to decide if we want to keep them, or we want to, get rid of them, or maybe we need someone to help us, which is perfectly fine as well. And that's also a decision, right? Like, that's in mental health, for example. If we see that there is something that we can't cope with by ourselves, we can always, ask for support. And that's again another bold decision, because we are so strong, and as women, we're used to be like, always, okay, I can deal with that, I'm strong. But no, sometimes it's also like a sign of strength to ask for help.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing the practices and talking about it. And I'm telling you, I teach meditation and I do exercise, I weight lift, and I run. I
My
think
God.
it is very, very,
That's a lot.
very, very important well, I haven't done it since pandemic happened. Like, I mean, I still do my walking and thing, but I used to go to the gym and do all that. But meditation, I never missed. And I cannot recommend it highly for people to practice this breathing, because it's just a whole nother level, how much you bring you and ground you and give you that appreciation about your health, about yourself, that you're within yourself. You actually, it's almost kind of nurturing too, because you're taking care of your physical body, almost like a spirit and body combined together, which is such a beautiful thing. And the end that you said, giving some gratitude, realizing it, and things that is not good for you, letting go of the things that is not good for you. And through the breath work, you can actually do that. So I'm telling you this, starting today, I'm going to practice it, because it's amazing. So tell us, where can they find you, and what are you working on?
Oh wow, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. So the easiest probably ways, so I run my business, so it's called Respira Breathwork, where like Respira, so it's a Latin word and it's a Spanish word as well. I used to live in Argentina. It's a call to action, right? A call to action to breathe, and then I discovered that in Latin it means recovering hope and strength after the time of difficulty. So it's called Respira Breathwork. So it's respirabreathwork.com. And I'm also on Instagram, quite active. It's Respira Breathwork. Plus, I'm also on Clubhouse, which is like this new app that everyone is quite crazy about, including myself. So I'm trying to also host quick, like 10 to 15 minute sessions, breathwork sessions there. Yes, and I mean, I'm working on, of course, I mean, because of the pandemic, I mean, in Hong Kong, we are quite low on the number of cases, but we also have our gyms shut down, unfortunately. So I teach online most of the time, building my online community. So, I mean, of course, there are lots of things to be sad about when we think about COVID, but one good thing that I can think about is that I could expand a lot more, and I have now, students coming from other parts of the world, which I'm, of course, very grateful for.
Well, this is great because I will link and I put all your link underneath of this episode. So for the listeners to find you, and I'm pretty sure they will look for that because I know they're extremely enthusiastic to learn more stuff. And like you said, one of the things that we should be grateful when it comes to pandemic, because our listeners from all over the world. And it's so convenient now that if somebody wants to do this, they don't have to physically go and you don't have to physically have one location. You can do it online and can affect so many people's life and so many people can think. And that's why I bring experts like yourself, not only to give our listeners some tools and strategies that they can apply in their life, but also as an entrepreneur and supporting like virtual community, supporting each other to make it visible for people that is easy to find if you're feeling stress, if you have anxiety, if you have fear, especially in time like this and pandemic with the COVID. And this is really, really important, like you said, not only for stress, but also your immune system. And if you're one of those people that are afraid that you don't want to get COVID, I think you should start with breath work and practice to make sure your immune systems are strong, especially in New York is cold, so we can't really go outside and walk or anything. But the least you can do is to, definitely practice this at home to improve your immune system. So ladies and gentlemen, follow her, find her because she's amazing. I loved what she does. And I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Such a pleasure, like such a delight. And well, I wish you, the most wonderful day.